You're watching Real Simple News with Coffee on Friday, September 11th, 2020. Today marks the 19th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks that killed 3,000 American civilians. And I think I looked it up today. I want to say it was 120 of New York Fire Department's first responders in a tragic incident caused by radical Islamic terrorism. And so we're going to start off the show by giving a moment of silence for those who died on September 11th. Oops. Too late now. So in our top fake news article from Fake News Forbes, it says quote unquote pure evil, report on Trump administration draining funds for FDNY's 9/11 responders draws outrage. Quote, what would cause you to withhold money from our American heroes who need this money now? We read on in the article, and then it's from a woman named Lisette Votko. It says a New York Daily News scoop published Thursday revealed that the Trump administration siphoned around $4 million from the New York City Fire Department's funds. Oops. For its September 11th first responders, drawing outrage on the 19th anniversary of the attacks right before the 2020 presidential election. Wonder if the timing was coincidental or not. But the U.S. Treasury money says the money was diverted because of delinquent debt owed by New York City to the federal government. It says key facts. The funds are part of the FDNY World Trade Center health program, which was established by the James Zargo 9/11 Health and Companionship Act of 2010, a bill passed by Congress that provides health care to first responders who has suffered a range of illnesses or exposures. So Trump doesn't only, quote, doesn't only hate veterans, he hates first responders, heroes, unquote, tweeted actress Deborah Messing in reaction to the Daily News report. That's just bonkers, man. Like, what? Who is okay? So you read the thing. You're in the RSS news reader, and then it says Trump just drained these funds, and then she gives you a thing that says the Treasury says the money was diverted due to delinquent debt owed by New York City to the federal government. And what is somebody tweeting out Trump hates veterans have anything to do with this? Oh, yeah, because that's how you set up fake news stories to make something appear to be one way when in reality it's not. Senator Chuck Schumer defended the funds to be released immediately, while U.S. Rep. Max Rose, who represents the Staten Island and parts of Brooklyn, tweeted, "There is not a single excuse that can justify defunding medical treatment for our heroes suffering from 9/11 related illnesses." Well, yeah, there is. What if they had health insurance from the Affordable Care Act passed by President Obama? Because when these funds were created, they didn't have the Affordable Care Act. And then after this was created, then they did have the Affordable Care Act. This is from the administration whose, this quote from the administration whose identity is built on claims of honoring first responders, end quote. Julie Cohen, director of the RBG documentary, wrote on Twitter, quote, "This doesn't surprise me at all," and quote, Army veteran advocate for Paul Rieckhoff wrote on Twitter, "Trump did nothing to push for the extension of Zerdota last year." U.S. Treasury spokeswoman Rebecca Miller told Forbes that $1.9 million in payment was diverted from the FDNY because of law that forced delinquent debt owed by New York City and other localities, but repaid, and couldn't have explained why the Daily News was reporting $4 million, a 50% discrepancy. We are also working with Congressman King and others to explain any potential authorities to provide relief on this case to support our nation's 9/11 heroes, Miller told Forbes, but could not provide any examples of how they could do it and did not have a timeline. Critical quote, "We have a sick World Trade Center exploding firefighters and EMS workers at a time when the city is having difficult financial circumstances due to COVID-19, and we're not getting the money we need to be able to treat these heroes," FDNY Chief Medical Officer David Perez told the Daily News. It looks like she updated this. Nope. Chief critic says, quote unquote, "pure evil," tweeted Dr. Dina Grayson, a medical expert who specializes in Ebola and other viruses. I'm not sure exactly what that has anything to do with 9/11 first responders, like Ebola and viruses, and then treating first responders, medical treatments. Like, they're not really the same field. I mean, yeah, they kind of overlap, but in the medical world, not really. Like, you're supposed to go to a specialist who works in that field all the time so that they'll be aware of all the new trends. They'll work with patients in that area. They know the workplace inside and out. That's why you go to a specialist, because trust me, I'm an engineer. I know a lot of, okay, so first off, whenever anybody says, "trust me, I'm an engineer," that's supposed to be a red flag, but this, I'm actually talking about the opposite of that currently right now. I've worked in a plethora of different fields. I have some engineering credentials in C++ and creating printed circuit boards, products, running startups, but there's a lot of things that I used to be an expert in that I have not worked on recently. And I've gone back and tried to work on a whole lot of stuff. So, I mean, that's anecdotal, but trust me, I'm an engineer. Whenever you hear me say that, that means that you should probably know that there's something dangerous that I might be messing up coming up here pretty soon. So, comedian Jon Stewart, what's blah 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 blah. So look, this is the fake news technique. So she presents a portion of the facts. She does not present all of the facts. She just paraphrases it. She's probably putting out a bazillion stories and she can't fact check them all. So she omitted some details and then she just went with whatever the first journalist that she's quoting, which we'll get to that article here in just a moment, she's quoting a ivory tower liberal journalist, and then she didn't get all the details. It's like a game of telephone. And then, so let's look into the details, see what she wrote. There's some background. Oh, so here, let me explain the fake news tactic. So she instead of presenting all of the data, she presents what other people said because she's trying to get you to side with her. So instead of presenting facts, she paints a story where you're having to take somebody else's credibility as the basically it's an appeal to authority is the logical fallacy that this author is using. I studied philosophy for a long time. And so she's saying, okay, here's these sources. They're an authority, so therefore then you should treat me like an authority, which is why it's a logical fallacy. It doesn't really actually make sense. Who's the authority? Been going over this with the COVID deaths. Here, we're going to go over the COVID deaths here in just a little bit. Here, let's switch over here to this other computer. All right. I personally think that it's impossible for buildings to fall at free fall speed unless they've had their girders cut. Just saying. Not going to go too far down that rabbit hole right now because it is a controversial topic, but I've never once in my entire life believed that these buildings fell by themselves because they fell at free fall speed. And it's just like you have like if I had dropped something very heavy on this metal pole right here, like there's metal poles that can hold a lot of weight. And if you drop something really, really heavy on them, even if it smashes the table and this microphone, it's going to not fall at free fall speed because something got in its way and smashed it. These girders, however, in these buildings are very suspicious because the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, their explanation that they put out in Popular Mechanics was that it was some diesel fuel in the basement that exploded and sucked the tower down. And I'm not buying this. Honestly, their explanation is stupid. I've seen diesel fuel burn enough times, like by setting my porch on fire when I was a kid, concrete porch with diesel with styrofoam in it. I just know from the way that diesel burns that it's not a very fast burning fuel. So the idea that this thing imploded and sucked down these massive, huge towers and then they fell at free fall speed is insane. That is insane. But I'm diverting. That's not what the show is about. You're on the intellectual dark web. I mean, that's part of the intellectual dark web, but not the rabbit hole we're going down. Into this fake news Forbes story here. What do we got? But first, this Real Simple News is an open source news organization. You can find us on GitHub at github.com/Real Simple News/Real Simple News. And then it's issue ticket 103. That can be kind of complicated for most people to find. If you're going to use this issue ticket, if you find any facts that are omitted from the show, and after the show, I'll post the links to the articles, and then you can fact check any of them, and I'll upload fact checks to the website. You can find us at realsimplenews.net/issue 103 for this show. And then you can make a donation to the show to keep us going through PayPal. It funds our open source. Oh, wow. What did I just do? Sorry. I just turned my monitor off, my TV. Sorry about that. I don't know what just happened. Been having issues with the show crashing. And it was because I was recording my videos in MKV, or I was saving them as MP4s. So if you are working with OBS, you need to save your videos as MKV. So this show is part of WikiSpy. It's an open source fact-checking service that I'm building to monitor WikiLeaks sites for tampering by hostile actors and political bias. It'll also have an automated fact-checking service. It's mostly open source. You can contribute to it on Wikipedia or on GitHub at github.com/wikispy. Don't have a whole lot of work done right there. If you are a AI expert and you want to help out, I am not an AI expert. I've just taken some classes and I just work on the code and I know how to build most of the app. Right. So let's see. Here's the original article that was presented. It says exclusive. Trump admin secretly withheld millions from FDNY 9/11 health program. Secretly. It's Trump. He did it. An ivory tower liberal journalist in New York sitting up top the ivory tower. They said that Trump did it, so he's guilty. So you read in here, and what you're going to see is this little quote here. Here's the director of the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, which oversees the program. But instead of sending the funds to the city, the Treasury started keeping some of the money. It was just disappearing. Program director told the news. It was the most amazing thing. It was just disappearing without any notification. So the peasant said he was docked about $500,000 each year in 2016 and 2017. If anybody's paying attention, Donald Trump was not in office in 2016. So this practice predated Donald Trump, had nothing to do with Donald Trump. But the author sitting up top, the ivory tower, Michael McAuliffe, let's see, can we see a picture of him? It's all you get. You don't get to know who he was. Maybe, nope. This one, though, will try to convince you that it's all the orange man's fault, or the orange man is bad. So it's basically just a political hit piece. Now, their beef is with the Treasury. It looks like the Treasury is stating that there's a discrepancy. There's the $1.9 million, and then there's they took out $1.447 million. But why on earth didn't this guy deal with this in 2016? I don't understand why this guy didn't deal with it in 2016. You're like, that's really what the news story here should be, is that Dr. David Present was negligent in his duties to the 9/11 firefighters, and he didn't clarify why the funds were missing. And then they proceeded to, okay, so how did they get a hold of this? So they some guy named here's the Hill article that came out today too after it. This one, okay, this is not a fake news story, right? Because obviously there's funds missing. Obviously there's a discrepancy. It is a story. This is just some straight up a hit piece on Donald Trump. It's deceptive. when you look in the RSS news feeds, right, you look here and you're like, wow, it doesn't have any of the facts that are in the article at all. It says just this, and it's like, okay. I understand if she told you all of the facts, you probably wouldn't click on the article. This is kind of the way news works in the RSS world. Is these are free articles. You can download a reader, and then you can read them. And I've been reading them for ever since they came out. And but they take a lot of money to write these articles. You have to put out X free articles to get Y subscriptions. This is the problem with their business model, is that it's based around fake news. In order to put out X free subscriptions or maximize the equation of X free articles to get Y subscriptions, you have to put out fake news. You have to put out stories as fast as you can put them out without fact checking them. And it ends up turning it into fake news, because when you are claiming that the Trump administration is doing this, you need to kind of send a person that you're leveling these claims against a notification. I'm going to levy these claims against you in a newspaper. And then if that person does not respond, then maybe you shouldn't say that person did that intentionally, because that would be fake news. You don't know whether or not the Trump administration secretly did this. But when you start filling in the facts, you can very clearly see that the details here. Let's scroll down to what they said. It was King, right? Let's look for King in here. Okay, so it says after years of complaining, President did get an answer after years of complaining. President did get a personal answer to the Long Island Republican Representative Pete King, but his political weight behind the inquiry. The answer was that some other agency in the city had been in an unrelated feud with the feds over medical bills. For some reason, the Treasury decided to stiff FDNY. Neither the Treasury Department nor the White House answered requests for comment. King said, whatever circumstances is the force is that forces a premier program for sick 9/11 first responders to go begging for help on the eve of the 19th anniversary of the attack. It has ended. It's disgraceful, King said. I just don't understand. I really don't understand exactly what the point of these. Why are these people so obsessed with putting out fake news about Trump? It's like, well, obviously it's because their business model, they get money from it. It funds their work when they do this. But it's obviously sketchy because the only reason why they're attacking Trump all the time is because of you have to put out X subscriptions to get Y, free articles to get Y subscriptions. That's the business model. And people are more likely to click and subscribe when they're pissed off about the issue. It's just something about human nature, which is why I really don't care about pissing people off. I've learned the hard way that there's no real way that you can appease all of these lefties. Every single one of them is going to get angry about a different thing.
They're all going to have some tick or thing that irritates them. Some of them are going to be really feminist, and they're going to like be asexual, and they're going to demand that everybody else chop off their penis and cut off their clit to be more like their lame sex life. But vast majority of people would say, fuck you. Or you fuck me. But to these people, that's shocking. Like, you can't say that. Like you, if you're a guy, you can't post up on Facebook, I'm doing no fap. I'm not going to masturbate for a month. You can't talk about it. It's like, I tried doing this whenever I feel I got introduced to Red Pill. I tried doing the no-fap thing, and from doing the no-fap thing, I posted a couple of times like, yeah, I'm just not gonna, haven't done it for like some number of weeks or something. Like, this is great, man. I'm like fucking like feeling like I want to fight. I'm like, because I was working out so much, and but people was just like, man, some of these people, like, that was just way too much for them. I'm like, man, y'all people are sexually lame. For real. Anything is like, it's like they're having a bad day, they're depressed, they're always irritable, and then you don't know this. You're like, oh, this one person, they're always sweet and nice because they're always sweet and nice to my face, right? And then they go home and they're popping antidepressant, antipsychotic, anti-anxiety pills, and they're a total nutcase. They're like, they drink way too much. Like, they look put together when you see them, but then when they go home, like, they are a fruitcake. And so we just think like, oh, these people, like, they're saying, oh, this person's bad, and they're a good person. I trust this person, so it must be that person is bad because my other friend always seems like so perfect all the time. Like, dude, that bitch is cray, bro. I hate to be the one to break it to you. She's a lunatic. So the more you try to appease these people on the left, the more time you're going to waste, because there's no way to actually appease them. Everybody else thought what you said was funny or a serious issue, and they cared about you. And then it was just the one wingnut. And there's maybe like 1 in like 500 or something that's gonna like just be a complete wingnut. And then you got like 1,000 friends on Facebook, and you always got 2 or 3 wingnuts there. And like, you can't tell the difference because it's like, oh, they're always getting offended. Like, and then people just don't have enough friends that they don't know that really cool people just always act cool to you. Like, they're not like going to start flipping out over something completely ridiculous, like something that you said, or they thought that you were like implying something with that picture that you post. And there's nothing that you can do to please these people because fundamentally they're insane. That's why they're on the antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and antipsychotic medication. But you thought they were normal. You're a sucker. So why was I going off about these people? Let's see. It's disgraceful, King said. I don't even care what the details of this thing is. The fund has to be fully compensated, fully reimbursed. I mean, this is absurd. He said, if anyone here were true American heroes, it would be the cops and firefighters on 9/11, 100% in agreement. Seems like New York City. I mean, hold on. You can't just expect the bank to give you free money. The U.S. Treasury is a bank, and when your account is overdrawn, then you don't get to pull any money out. And you don't have a right to be mad at the bank when they stop giving you the money that you didn't earn. Because, I mean, really, the reality of, oops, sorry. those issue tickets are starting to get large. The reality of the situation here is that New York just is mismanaging their funds all the time because they're Democrats. They shouldn't have this problem, but they do because they want to take the money from the rich people and give it to the minorities in order to get the white feminists to vote for them. That's the name of the game in Democrat shithole cities. Shithole cities. Because they are. Like, these cities they're infested with gang violence. There's areas of the town where if you're pasty white like me, you don't go. It's a no-go zone. And they have all these problems paying all of their bills, and it's because they're not being conservative with their money. They're saying, no, we need to jack Peter to get Paul to vote for us. Instead of focusing on a competitive solution, which is if you're not competing, we're just going to peace out. I'm sorry. That's the whole point of competing is whenever you compete, you get more. That's why we compete. If we don't compete, you're going to get a bunch of bullshit. So you do need to actually compete. I think that these food stamps and the welfare probably should get cut. You need to have even more tight restrictions on them. I personally have had no benefit at all from food stamps or welfare because I've been on both because I'm not a rich person. I'm, in fact, actually a poor person. And I just act right. And I've been educated, so I don't look like a vagabond because I'm not one. But these cities, these big cities, it's like we're giving them this cushion that is allowing them to just live in the lowest possible state. And I know a lot of this is due to this crazy amount of people being packed into a small area, and then you just can't pack any more people in, and so then the price goes up. But we are subsidizing this with food stamps, and it seems like I don't know what to say because, let's say there was a diaspora out of all these big major cities, Democrat-run shitholes. What's going to happen? What's the next stage? What does the next state look like? All of the bullshit from the big cities gets exported to all of our rural communities, and then it kills off their culture and their traditions, and then you end up turning them into big cities. Okay. How do you go about dealing with this? Because it seems like the minorities in the big cities falling on the bottom of the pyramid. And here is what I've been working on for today. Let's see. Let's get this. Shown this graph a number of times, but I made a nice meme out of it. Poster. I wonder if I can view that as a full screen. Here we could see in this image, I can't zoom in too much. Here we can see this is the Democrat 4-tier racial caste hierarchy. Here we can see this chart of the GPAs of white people, black people, Hispanic or Latinos, and Asian Pacific Islanders. And then I have that Pew Research study on the 2016 electorate, who voted for Trump, who voted for Hillary Clinton. And so what you could see extrapolated from these graphs here are that we can see that the demographics of the Democratic Party are largely about 40% of them are composed of Hispanics and blacks. And they're all congregated in these big cities. They're all these. This is a map that shows the height of the population and whether or not they're blue or red. And you can see from the map, the vast majority of these people live in these big Democratic run shitholes. And so then we could see that there is a pattern going up the top of the ivory tower, which is the racist power structure created by the Democrats or the Democrats or the Demo Rats. And at the bottom, you get the poor whites in Antifa because they're no longer the white supremacists. They used to be the party of the KKK back in the day. They were the ones who owned slaves and opposed women's suffrage. And so now they're white feminists. So they give the minorities diversity tickets. So this makes it so the poor whites, here's the college educated and uneducated. So amongst whites, you got the college grads. And so they go up to the top of the ivory tower and they become ivory tower liberals or white feminists. And so these white feminist white feminism is a racist version of feminism that puts white women's issues above everyone else's. And so the white college grads can be white feminist, or most of them. Sorry, this graph means the majority of most of them. But the non-college grads, they can go down to poor whites and Antifa. And then amongst non-whites, the non-college grads, they become hood Democrats. They're in these big blue bars over here because they congregate in big cities. And so the college grads of the minorities, they can go up to white feminist. Most of them go to white feminist or poor whites. And the difference in between the poor whites and the white feminists, or the white feminists are the ones who they express the liberal ideologies and they engage in anti-white racism. They believe in the doctrine of diversity that says that all white teams are inferior compared to teams with minorities or women on them. And they think this because they've done studies that show that diverse teams are more productive and innovative. And so they generalize this to think that it's the color of your skin. And in their social hierarchy, you go up the social hierarchy when you say anti-racist statements and pro-trans, and when you say your statements and then you say your gender pronoun, and you make these token statements that they call it virtue signaling. And if you don't virtue signal, then you will be fired from the workplace. And so that's the difference between the white feminists and the poor whites. The poor whites are sitting here listening to this going, wow, these people do that? That's fucked up. And then the white feminists are listening to this going, what? This dude's a demon. He's far right. This guy has to be a misogynist. And this is the fundamental difference between the poor whites and the white feminists. But the hood Democrats, the low-income, big city Democrats, the ones in these big bars, these are hood Democrats, mostly hood Democrats here. That's just people, they're the big bars. And so these people, they're stuck here above the poor whites because they basically flipped the racial hierarchy where the hood Democrats are now above the poor whites. And that's because they get diversity tickets. And so what does this have to do about the story? Something about the white feminist. Oh, these are the ivory tower liberals. Yeah, these are the people at the top, because you got to understand the corrupt, fucked up pyramid that these people have. Once you see the pyramid on paper and you're like, look at the GPAs, you're like, all right, here's the voting demographic, right? And then here's their GPAs, and then here's where they're at in this. Hey, all right. Yeah, now you can see that there's a corrupt batch of people at the top of the ivory tower here, where this all-seeing eye is, where Q says there's a bunch of pedophiles, and they're controlling everyone down below them. So this is what the ivory tower liberals are doing when they put out these hit pieces, because they know that this stuff's a load of bullshit. Because they're like, okay, well, New York City owed them the money. That was the only way that they could take it out. We have Obamacare. If you don't want to, can't get it from the city of New York, then they need to take you to court. This is it's like they're airing out their dirty laundry. This guy should have taken the feds to court over the matter. That would have been the appropriate thing to do, but instead they're going and airing out their dirty laundry, and they don't have all the facts because they haven't talked to the president. They're like, so this guy said he intended to confront Vice President Mike Pence on Friday when they both attended the Tunnel to Towers event honoring the anniversary. Says, I got to tell him, and quote, King said, quote, that forget the politics. I don't want to sound naive, but this is terrible, absolutely inexcusable. I'm going to push back. What's inexcusable is to rip off the Treasury to try to overdraft your account. I don't know enough about it. This is something that I've learned from doing the show, is that like I'm also too susceptible to not understanding things when I read them. Sometimes I don't understand them fully. Sometimes I'll be, this is fake news. And then like later on in the day, I'll be like, okay, I misunderstood that. So I understand I'm also too a human that's fallible, capable of making the exact same mistakes that these people are. But this is why you don't have deceptive headlines. So the headline here is Trump administration secretly withholds millions from FDNY 9/11 health program. So Donald Trump said, we're pulling the money from the New York Fire Department for the 9/11 firefighters right before the election. Right. That totally sounds like somebody who has a large staff of people who are trying to get him reelected would say, right? That's it. These people live in a parallel universe, and it's because they sit in up top day ivory tower bitching about Donald Trump all day, about how he is the orange man and he's bad. And they've whipped themselves up into a psychosis, and they are spewing out fake news like a fire hydrant. Whew, getting too hot in here. All right, let's move on to this next story. So if you're unfamiliar with the show format, this is the coffee show, and we have the green screen show. So this is the show where I'm usually would have other people come on the show, and they would be talking with me during this period of time about the news story. If you know any cool people that want to drink coffee and talk about news stories on YouTube, we are blowing up. We actually have thousands of views per week. So definitely would be cool to have some guests on who are super cool and want to talk about whatever the hell's going on in the news. But I have to this show, it takes a lot of work to set up. And so in order to make it so that there's less work, because I really do need an app to do this, I have to type in the titles while I'm sitting here. Which so I'm asking that people comment. Oh yeah, let's make a comment section. Let me add in a thing, and I'm going to say it's comment time. And then if anybody wants to comment down below, I'm hoping to not make this a monologue. I would like to feature your tweets or your messages too. If you only knew how much work this show takes, it's crazy how much work everything takes, and I'm not getting any sort of money or anything. So, comment below. What do you think? Nice. And then I can type in the name of the thing, and then that makes the entire show go a lot quicker. Then I could put out twice as many shows, and then you can also hopefully meet people while you're chatting on YouTube or Periscope or on Facebook. Okay. OBS, right? Yay. If I do it like this, I can name the videos and then I can upload them and then I don't have to mess with them later. But it just takes a little bit of extra work. What is the next story here is coming. Next story from at RSS Commentary, Real Simple News on Twitter. RSS Commentary has been suspended from Twitter for defending Kyle Rittenhouse in the Second Amendment. I had to post it on Facebook because I could not post it on Twitter because I am blocked out. But the tweet had read, it was a tweet to at NPR Politics. It said, oh shoot. It says, we're in a parallel universe. Kyle Rittenhouse is an American hero. All of the evidence, and there are detailed timelines on YouTube, show that Kyle was being attacked and had been shot at. One killed, had raped a 5-year-old. Another was a woman beater. The one who lived had an illegal gun. And so this is insane. This is legit. Twitter trying to interfere with U.S. politics. This is a clear and cut Second Amendment case. Kyle Rittenhouse was, well, here, let's read the second tweet here. It was to at Vari J. Styles. When people are attacking you, we have the 2A or the Second Amendment. so you can protect yourself. Kyle Rittenhouse, by all definitions, was a member of a well-trained militia. I would have fired more shots than Kyle. Kyle was much better trained than I am. Kyle Rittenhouse is an American hero. And he is, because this is a battle that a militia fought with people who are trying to burn our cities down. They might say they're out rioting and looting for the black looter mob, but they're out doing it to burn, loot, and murder. That's not a peaceful protest. Whatever the hell these people have been saying with the peaceful protest thing is absolutely fruitcake. Fruit cake. It's a multi-month long riot where they're terrorizing communities and coming after people like me because they say you're far right because you fight the far left, because apparently the United States is far right because we fought wars with communists in Korea and Vietnam. So because we fought the far left, I guess they think that Americans only killed Nazis. Like, this is fruitcake. No, America killed Nazis and communists. Let's be very clear on that one. Definitely fought 2 wars with communists and a Cold War. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. I've been alive when the Cold War was still going on. So we definitely fought the far left. These black looter mobs from the hashtag BLM people, the people who created the hashtag BLM, they're trained Marxists. Probably seen the videos. We can pull them up here real quick. Oh. If you haven't seen these videos, here's the Young Rippers, hella
right.
cool. If you don't know about this guy, Young Rippers, awesome. Or Rippa. He is a very chill guy. He's definitely worth subscribing to. I love his videos. I think that he does a great job. He's a comic book nerd. Good guy.
I also think that it might, I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super.
How do you become a trained Marxist? That's what I want to know. Does that mean she took a philosophy class in school and she learned about Marxism? You know, I studied philosophy in college for many, many years, and I never really learned about Marxism in college. So, well, I mean, I never went to grad school for it. I just took 2 junior level classes, and then a whole bunch of sophomore classes and some freshman classes. At one point in time, I was a philosopher, but Marxism is. Oh yeah, no, I think maybe we covered Karl Marx a little bit. So Karl Marx, if you're unfamiliar, he was a rabid white supremacist. He was the reason why the Nazis hated Jews. Well, hold on. They really actually hated Jews because of the Holodomor famine massacre. A lot of people just don't know the Holodomor famine massacre, where the Russian army that was in control by the Marxists, who were the people who had risen up to the higher ups, were Jewish people, and they did this famine massacre where they killed up to 12 million Ukrainians. Most people don't know this, but that's why they put the Jews in the concentration camps. Was because they have a history of committing genocide. This is no longer the case. Jews today are innocent. You should not hate on Jews because of things that people in World War II did. Those people, they didn't have electricity back then. Most of them didn't have electricity back then. They're still living on the farm. None of them, they didn't know what they were doing. So you're going to have to forgive them for not being a civilized person like we are today. But I'm diverging. But so If you're unfamiliar with what cultural Marxism is, after World War II, the Soviets had controlled half of Europe, and the they did the cultural de-evolution in China, or the cultural evolution. It's a de-evolution. And they went through the countryside, and the countrysides were mostly capitalist, and the cities had a lot of socialist in them. And it's the same way in the United States too. The countrysides are capitalist, and the big cities are socialist, and then the rural areas, the poor red states, they're more capitalist. I think it's kind of an element of human nature when you're out in the country. You can't rely on other people to help you out. You have to take care of yourself. So then capitalism works much better in the countryside, where in the city they just want to mooch off the government with their welfare queens and their food stamps. And then the food stamps turn them into betas. They keep them at the bottom of the social hierarchy because it's just enough to keep them comfortable, which is why I'm against it. I think that you're going to be better off if you don't have the safety net. It's my own personal opinion. We can vote on that one. But they, in the culture of the evolution, and also in the USSR at that time, the socialists from the cities went through the countryside and they murdered about 100 million people. In the USSR, they were throwing them in gulags. In China, they were just straight up slaughtering. And so this cultural Marxism stuff is no joke. China's been hitting us with a psychological warfare campaign, a cyber warfare campaign, trying to push cultural Marxism here. And these people who founded the hashtag BLM movement, I think it's the BLM Foundation. I can't remember which one is the one that's pro-cop and which one is the fruitcake one. But you heard it here. These people are trained cultural Marxists.
First, on sort of ideological theories.
So basically, she just flat out said it. That right there. Like their ideological foundation. Their ideological foundation.
Young Ripper is definitely hella chill. So these people, they are getting funds from all these scam donations. How much money have they raised? I think it's an insane amount of number. Because I know it's insane. Huh? There's Daily Caller, gonna check him out. Handles news difference between news and opinion responsibly. Avoids deceptive headlines, but generally does not publish false content. We'll see. Tread with caution. Well, no, this one's got a green flag on it, so it's probably going to be legit info. Always check your sources. Never trust anybody. People that's what I've learned from being an engineer, is that like my mind's fallible, and also I can trick myself. I can convince myself that my theory is correct, and then as it turns out, it's cuckoo, cuckoo. Hey man. You just learn these things as an engineer. Like everybody can be bozo. Everybody can have this like bizarre, weird idea of the way things work. And then if you trust these people, and everything that comes out of their mouth is going to be a shit fest. So this one says Black Lives Matter Global Network spent millions on consultant travel compensation for its staff, July 2017 through June 2019, according to audited financial statements from its financial sponsor. 6% of the global BLM Global Network spending during these 3 fiscal years was in the form of grants to outside organizations, such as independent affiliated chapters. So I think we would call that That could be sketchy. So they're they're taking the money from donations and then shifting it out to a bunch of different organizations that can conceal what they're spending the money on. BLM Global Network Managing Director Kaylee Scales told the Daily Caller News Foundation the figures are not accurate reflection of the in-kind support it provides. Its affiliated chapters for those years. Scales also said her organization is not responsible for the preparation of the financial statements that were prepared by BLM Global Network's fiscal support. So I'm looking for, what is it? Well, I'm sorry, like, that's just $1 million on travel, right? And so just on travel. $1.6 million on consulting, $2.1 million on personal costs during 2017, 2018, and 2019 fiscal years. So let's compare this to Steve Bannon. So they're up in arms about Steve Bannon. I think Steve Bannon's innocent. I've covered this on the show. If you want to go back, look through one of the headlines, just look up Steve Bannon on YouTube. Real Simple News Base, Steve Bannon. And so they said that these guys took, they raised $25 million and then they took out $1 million. They said Bannon was arrested on his friend's yacht. They're trying to make it look like Bannon is like living this extravagant life off of the funds that they embezzle from this Build the Wall Inc. thing. And so who was the guy? Brian Colfage? Yeah. So they said they took out $300,000. So they said they took $1 million to run the entire thing for like 3 years. And they are like 5 people here. So if you break it down, it looks like Steve Bannon didn't receive any of the money, but he helped. I guess Brian Colfage's wife is an Instagram model, and they bought some fancy boat before this Build the Wall Inc. thing happened. There's a lot of facts here. I know it's confusing. I'm sorry. I'll do the best I can here to get these facts together for you. So I guess they bought a golf cart. Did they show the golf cart? They bought a golf cart so I can, and an SUV to haul the golf cart, and and then they paid money for bills, like stuff they put on the credit card. And she bought cosmetic surgery. Of course, cosmetic surgery would not be a legit thing. So he's saying a luxury SUV, a golf cart. So we don't, these can be put on as a charge for having to go and monitor the wall. I mean, you might say it's a luxury SUV. I think it was a Range Rover. I don't think it was actually a luxury SUV. It looked like kind of normal SUV. Maybe they got like a more expensive version of it. So payments towards a boat, but fake news. A lot of people said that they spent the money on a $600,000 boat, and then home renovations, jewelry, personal tax payments, credit card debt. So we don't know. You're innocent until you're proven guilty. I don't know what to tell you about that. Other than a lot of these charges can be justified in the course of building the wall because you have to monitor the wall. So you need that fancy golf cart. Do we have a picture of the golf cart? I don't think we have a picture of the golf cart. Apologize. Tried to get it. Here's the boat that some of the money went towards payments for. I would say that I don't know, maybe you could use a boat for monitoring the wall if it's built near a thing? Probably not. No. Don't have any pictures of the golf cart, though. I don't think that the golf cart was a horrible investment. It does look like if you're going to build walls, that you have to transport people around. And this guy was working as a volunteer, and he said he wasn't going to take any money. In reality, he should have said, I'm going to have to take a paycheck in order to keep the thing going, or we're going to have to give somebody else a paycheck because we can't run. I can't work for free for 4 or 5 years, right? You know anybody that want to work for 4 or 5 years for free? I don't know anybody that wants to work 4 or 5 years for free. I don't know anybody. If you do, you should send them to me so they could work for my startup. So what did they say? They said, so you want to compare what BLM spent to what Brian Colfage spent? Like these people are spending like astronomical sums more. Like look at how much money they spent just on travel. Just on travel, that's more money than what Brian Colfage's. That's like 3 times more money than Brian Colfage's wife is accused of having taken out. And then they're saying that Colfage didn't get the money. It was his wife, and then they paid her because she worked. And I don't know. There's legalities about what he said to the customers when they donated. I don't think anybody who donated really cares, to be quite honest. In fact, I would totally donate more money to them knowing how little they actually spent on overhead. I'm actually very impressed because if you look at the overhead on most nonprofit organizations, it's well over 50%. It is well over 50%. So the fact that Brian Colfage got away with spending like, what was that, 4% on overhead? That is incredible that they're able to do it on that low overhead. It's because they're mostly volunteer. And I do think that they're caught up in a legality trap of what you told the customer, the donators. I do think they can get the people to donate to like say that they will donate if Brian Colfage gets a small percentage for the work that he's done. I think that people would actually love to pay him for that too. But they took down the donation. You can't donate to Build the Wall Inc. anymore. But they just let these black looter mobs just get away with these rampant scam donations that they're using to fund riots with. And then you can't say anything. So these militias are showing up and they're engaging in their Second Amendment right to protect the city. And they are protecting our people because the police are unable to protect them because there are so many black looter mobs that the police can't protect you. So you have to arm up yourself. You have to get weapons like assault rifles, really powerful pistols, like 22. You got to get a 45, something with that can put somebody down, because when somebody's coming after you, it's not just going to be like you hit them once and then they're down. It's going to be like you shoot them and then they're still coming after you. And if you can't stop them before they get you, they might stab you with a knife or beat you with a hammer or a crowbar, like these BLM Antifa Nazis or Blammin do when they're at these Democrat race riots. And then they're just Twitter. What is up with Twitter? I mean, you just have to wonder, like, are these people like, do they live in a world where this is acceptable? I want to know. I want people to comment below. Have you ever been at any sort of place, any sort of business, any sort of private person's place where anybody has ever told you to not engage in behavior like this? Like a single moment in your entire life where anybody has told you you can't say this person's a hero who fought in a battle, or a soldier, like Vietnam soldiers or Iraq soldiers who also too engaged in, what did they say? They said we prohibit the content that condones or celebrates acts of violence that could promote or incite the act. We also prohibit the glorification of mass murders or genocides where protected categories have been primary target or victims. Glorifying the perpetrators of such violence is also perpetrated or prohibited. So I'm not sure, like, okay, so he's a hero. All right. But what about an Iraq war veteran? They've also, too, engaged in mass shootings. Can I not say that that person is a war vet, is a hero? You can't. You are not allowed to put up anything that promotes the United States military or soldiers who fought and almost given their lives, or maybe have given their lives, or are permanently disfigured. You can't say they're a hero anymore? This is insane. This is the most crazy thing that I have ever heard in my life right here. Well, hold on. No, I've heard a lot more crazy things actually about Donald Trump and the QAnon. There are definitely some wingnuts. Okay, so the QAnon thing is not just morphing. It has not just morphed into their satanic cult eating babies, because that wasn't the original part of it. That just kind of got tacked on by crazy lunatics, right? No, the original thing is that there's just a group of pedophile elites who are after Donald Trump. And then the satanic, as far as I'm aware, the satanic thing was tacked on after that. If that's untrue, please comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe too, because people just forget about that. The video's playing in your feed and then you forgot. Or some people don't feel like they can subscribe, so they just go look you up by searching you. Actually, most people actually do that. Hold on. So what am I saying? They're saying these people, violence that could promote intimidation, imitation of the act. So okay. So what are they saying? They're saying that you can't encourage a militia to go protect the people when the black looter mob's out. This is fucking insane. This is insane. So they're literally trying to say, I cannot encourage people to defend their property with the Second Amendment while they take away my First Amendment right, because this is a community square. I am supposed to be posting this video right now. It's supposed to be on Twitter. In fact, I discovered this when I was logging in to do the show. I'm like going to go post up the thumbnail on Twitter. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, you can't log into Twitter. No, you offended the thought police. You committed a thought violation. I am a thought criminal. I said that Kyle Rittenhouse was a hero because he fought in a battle in a militia to protect our country. So he's a soldier. You might not think that this guy is a soldier, but he is. He's acting in capacity of an EMT. Let's look at the thumbnail for the show, for last week's show, because it's badass. Here is the badass thumbnail from the show. That was so awesome. And so what we can see when you zoom in, you can zoom in here on Kyle Rittenhouse. And you can see that Kyle Rittenhouse has purple gloves on. Why does he have purple gloves on? It's because he was an EMT and that he was acting in the capacity of an EMT. and he was acting in the capacity of a militia, and he was defending property from looters who were a part of a what we could assume is can be viewed as a paramilitary organization. I think maybe some people might push back on that, but let's just roll with it. Let's say that Black Looter Mob is taking their scam donations that they're getting for tricking people that the white cop killed unarmed black man, and they're using it to buy weapons and body armor. This is a rumor that's going around. I don't know if it's true or not. If you know if it's true or not, you should comment down below. But hold on, I kind of spaced out what I was talking about. But obviously, this guy is not doing anything illegal. Twitter might not like that behavior, but what is Twitter doing? Twitter is saying that, no, we just have to tolerate, like, this guy's got a gun in his hand. Literally, he has a gun. He just got his arm blown off by Kyle Rittenhouse's, I think it was an AK-47. And then, as you can see, obviously, Ted Wheeler is having some trouble breathing, but the people on the other side are not. And so this is just infuriating that they're doing this, because it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to censor my news? Like, okay, my brand here, you notice, is at RSS Commentary. That's a Twitter handle. The business operates on Twitter because it's a necessity of my business to operate on Twitter, because they have created a community square where the only way that I'm able to actually participate in being part of the press is to be in the community square and to be able to have my voice heard like other people have their voice heard, to not be censored because they don't like the message, they don't like the facts, and so they need to censor me because they can't take free speech. Because if you have free speech, what you're going to see is the truth. You're going to see that this is a savage, brutal scene here, and that someone had died, and that that this right here, this image, I think, is an epitome of American culture and history. What's going on here in the scene? I feel blessed to have been able to be the artist who was able to create this image. It really, really is a powerful image. It's very, very powerful. And to censor this would just, it would almost be criminal, if you ask me, to censor this art, because there was a lot of good things in this show. I am not a hate speech speaker. I am not a hateful person at all. I speak truth bombs, and I do not hesitate to drop, because I don't care about your feelings. Facts don't have feelings. Most people don't care about my feelings. So why on earth would I care about your feelings when you getting butthurt? Like, oh, somebody else might intimidate what Kyle Rittenhouse did. I would hope that every single person who's getting attacked by a mob of people who has a gun is able to defend themselves. Just to be clear, that position will never, ever change. It's the Second Amendment. Let's read the Second Amendment. What does it say? Sorry, that was really hard to type there. The Second Amendment says, I wish that they would put it up at the top.
Why does Wikipedia have to do this? If anybody's listening to this, can you please put the bottom line up front? Please. The bottom line up front. Like when I search for something and I need to know the information, can you please put it at the top? Thank you. It says, okay, obviously Wikipedia is a horrible place to get a quote. Okay, another one. That's bullshit. Page. Here is one that does not suck. This is constitution.congress.gov. It says Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay. So the right to keep and bear arms obviously would then extend onto Twitter, right? Private property, but so obviously free speech does not apply on Twitter. Maybe this is a bad example, but it definitely seems to me like part of being in the military is also being able to talk about being in the military. If you can't talk, or sorry, a militia, not the military. Part of being an essential part of the militia is to have the free speech to talk about the militia. So if you cannot actually organize the militia, then you don't have that right. So in order to organize the militia, Black Looter Mob is organizing using their millions and millions of dollars. I think it's over $1 billion that they've raised in scam donations. Like an insane, because there's thousands of different people making petitions on moveonandchange.org and Fundly for individual BLM causes. And everybody and their mothers, brothers, uncles, sisters, cousins, and transsexual family members are all trying to get those scam donations. But so they are extremely well funded. They can send out tweets that can put tens of thousands of armed Black looter mobs into your home city. And the only way that you could possibly get the word out would be on social media. The only way that you can physically possibly protect your city from being burned down by Black looter mobs is through the community square, such as Twitter and such as Facebook and YouTube. But if Twitter makes this if they are able to get away with this, other companies too will now they'll try to get away with this. And then we're going to end up with an epidemic of lawlessness in our country where you can no longer protect your property, because if you want to communicate where the enemy is during the battles, now you cannot do that. You have been censored. If you do that, they're going to block your account for 12 hours, and then you cannot organize the militia where another militia is able to organize. Then they can come and kill you because you're unable to have your free speech, because some ivory tower liberal motherfucker sitting up top day ivory tower thinks they know what is best for you and your family. So they're going to take away your free speech because they want to sell the tweet. They want to expand this service into all of the other countries so they can have a monopoly everywhere around the world on tweets. And they want to get rid of your free speech in America so that
your tweets comply with hate speech rules in Europe. And this is really their motivation. They don't give a fuck what you say. They don't. No. They only care about making money. You have to understand these people are faceless corporations. They do not have a soul. They're governed by a principle that they have to generate more and more and more money for their investors. If they don't, then their investors will jump ship to another investor or another company to pump their money into. That will be your competitor. So they have to get you to be nice and docile so that you do everything so that you aren't causing any problems so they can maintain their monopoly. It's antitrust. If you're unfamiliar with the antitrust laws, there's a difference in between antitrust and hyper-competitive practices. A hyper-competitive practice is not bad. It may not be fair for you as a startup, but the purpose of antitrust laws are to make it so the customer doesn't pay more for the same product because somebody has a monopoly. Started with the Standard Oil company, and they had a monopoly, and the other businesses got together. They said, this isn't fair. They can't do anything about it. So they got the people to pass antitrust laws that says that they can stop them if they have a monopoly, and that it's forcing the customer to pay more for the same product that they would get from a competitor. This is different than, for instance, the example that I use because I make music and lighting equipment too. I'm a computer engineer and software engineer. And so I make sound cards, MIDI controllers, and with built-in computers and open source music software. And so there's a company called Behringer. If most people are familiar with Behringer who play music or they've been at a bar, you've probably seen a bunch of Behringer stuff. They make really high quality, really cheap stuff. Behringer is a hyper-competitive business. They are the juggernaut that if I want to enter the market with my product, I just never entered the market because of Behringer. So Behringer might be bordering on a monopoly, but I don't think so. Behringer can just drop the price they can just put a sale on their audio interfaces and their MIDI controllers and drop the price. And then instead of somebody paying for my expensive all-in-one unit, they would just go get the cheaper thing because it does the same thing and they don't care about the space, or they don't know that the space is an issue. And then they can tap me out, prevent me from entering the market. Or their thing, my competitor is the XR18 mixer from Behringer. So that is essentially the cock block for me bringing my product into the market, is that the other companies have a price competitive advantage. But Behringer is not a monopoly. There's a bunch of other companies. There's also the Mackie model, and there's a Soundcraft model now. Mine is still better than all of theirs, if you ask me. But I can't compete on price. So this is hyper competitive. That's not illegal because you get a cheaper product out of the deal. That's the key. That's why this is the perfect example. Behringer is the best example because it's not a monopoly, because there's so many other industry players that, I'm sorry, man, you want to compete, dude, you're either going to have to be innovative enough where people are willing to pay the extra money, or you're going to have a cheap enough price to where you can compete with these guys, but the customer wins when we compete. This is night and day different than the duopoly of Facebook and Twitter, because Twitter is a short form social media site with tweets, 240 characters, and then Facebook is not a short form social media site. They're a full blown social media platform with e-commerce. So Twitter definitely has a monopoly on tweets. They do. Absolutely 100% they have a monopoly on the tweets. This very specifically, This is antitrust, what they did here. This is antitrust because their goal is to control the facts. They're controlling the facts. So they're saying this could possibly convince another person to use their Second Amendment. Okay, there's nothing that I could say that would convince these 2A people to not use their 2A rights, man. Like, they're already sold. There's nothing you can do to change them. We're very happy that they are like that. But they want to have a monopoly on the facts. So when you, now you as the customer here, the Twitter customer, which really you're the product, you are now paying more and you're getting less. You are paying more because you now have less time. You're paying in the form of time. It's your time. You are paying when you use this platform. And now you get less time on the platform because there was a 12-hour suspension. So you also get less because you now do not get to see my free speech. That was a competing argument. So my argument is that this is okay because had they given me a warning that said that this was not okay, I would have tweeted another thing that clarified what I said below it. But no, they're going to force me to delete it. Nobody ever gets the appeal approved. They're all just blanket denied. They're lying to you. It's an absolute lie. If they weren't lying to you, they would give you the records that showed, no, a person went and looked through this and they said that wasn't true, that you did violate the rules, and then they would give you a thing. That would be a good faith effort to do it. But no, they can't do a good faith effort because the platform is so large that they can't do it. So they have to blanket deny all of the appeals. And then they tell you that there's an appeals process, but really there is actually none. It's just a lie. They're just lying to you. This is now at this point in time antitrust because the purpose of this is that they want to control the market. That's the goal. Is they want to have control. They want to make it so that you can sell they can sell your tweets in as many countries as possible. So they want to make you docile. They want to make you a puppet so they can pull your strings by feeding you the facts. You can't get the facts from Real Simple News on Twitter because they just shadow banned me. We can do the shadow ban test. And as you will see, it will be hardcore shadow banned. What? I'm surprised. So it basically said, couldn't do anything. Something was wrong. I'm kind of surprised. If you've been following the show, I was shadow banned, hard shadow banned. So I had the no search suggest ban. I had the no search ban, but I did not have the ghost ban. And then this one, I think that would show up. So I'm not fully shadow banned. It's kind of normal. I've been that level of shadow banned for a long time. But yeah, that's kind of fucked up because I need to run my business. My business is required to be on Twitter. As you can see the at RSS commentary thing down over here right here, right? I have to be on Twitter. If you don't allow me to be on Twitter, then that is causing financial damages to my company. And if they're saying that this is glorifying violence to call Kyle Rittenhouse a hero, I mean, that's kind of messed up, dude. Because the guy is certifiably a war hero. You might not view this as a war,
But Antifa views it as a war. They're out there on the streets with weapons, burning down buildings. They're killing people. Black looter mob is executing people out of the blue. They're killing white people, white guys out of the blue. I've covered this on the show. There was like a lot of stabbings. One guy got bricked in the head. That video just got 18 plus censored on YouTube. Or 18 plus restricted, sorry. So we got to sue them. If anybody wants to sue Twitter with me, if you could please comment below what you think. And if you are a part of these wingnut movement, I would just suggest that you walk away from the radical left because they're a bunch of fruitcakes and they're trying to censor your free speech so that they can engage in cultural Marxism because they are brainwashed. They're in a suicide cult and they do not care about your family. It's all, to them, it's all an extremely corrupt pyramid ascending up the top of the ivory tower, where here we have the chart from earlier. Do we cover? No, this was in the prior segment. So this was this is a chart that I made. The 4-tier, the Democrat Democrat 4-tier racial caste hierarchy. Shows you the GPAs of the blacks, the Hispanics, the whites, and the Asians. And you can see the demographics of where they live. And you can see that there's a social hierarchy that ascends up the top of the ivory tower, where they put the poor whites on the bottom with Antifa now, because they are anti-racist and they give the black people and the minorities and the women, they give them diversity scholarships. So they're above the poor whites because they'll get the job over you because they need X% minorities to fit their quota. So this means, here's the voting demographics. You can see at the lowest GPAs are the black people, and then 91% of them vote for Democrats. I'm going to leave that up to you as to what that means. And then the people with the second lowest GPAs are the Latinos. And then 2/3 of them vote for Democrats. And then 28% of them voted for Hillary or for Trump in the last election. And then it doesn't show the Asians, does it? I think it's missing Asians. So there is actually something missing off of there. And there's the Asians, and like it's almost all Asians vote Democrats. So what you see is this corrupt pyramid forming, where, well, let's look at the household incomes. You can see the Asians are at the top, right? So this closely mirrors the GPAs. You can see actually it shows up right here. And you can see that the people up the top of the ivory tower, they are trying to control the people at the bottom of the ivory tower because it's a racist power structure. And you can see that at the top, you got the ivory tower liberals, the people who control everyone in the ivory tower because they're the bosses. And below them are the white feminists. These are the ones. And on each stage of this racial hierarchy, each tier has to enforce the people on the bottom below them to comply with the power structure. That's the way power structures work. So the hood Democrats,
They want to be white feminists, and the poor whites, they also want to be white feminist, but they cannot be white feminist because they do not say token anti-racist and pro-diversity statements when they go around circles in the meetings at their fancy workplaces where they all say, no, I am not racist. I am pro-trans. My gender pronoun is he. Because they all have to show exactly how lib they are. In fact, when they go to women's marches, they sometimes wear pussy hats. And here we can see an image of white feminists wearing pussy hats. Here we can see they are of varying ages. And we can see that the common goal behind all of these white feminists, these privileged white women, are that they all want to earn more money. Oh, you call these people, all you got to do is just call it. You got to just say what these people do. You don't have to insult them. All you have to do is just say what they do. And it's like the most insulting thing in the world. See, that's how you know that these people are in the wrong with what they're doing, because just by merely bringing up what they're doing, it's shameful. So here we can see a white feminist wearing a vagina costume. This one has pubic hairs on it. Here we can see that they're bringing the kids into it. Apologize. You should always leave the kids out. Here you can see they're like doing that thing. I think if I'm not correct, you should comment below. What do you think? Here we can see Michael Moore wearing a pussy hat, a pink pussy hat. You can see that he obviously looks like he's not getting any. Probably his dick fell off. Probably because he's a whiny beta male. Here we can see a white feminist with a sign that has a vagina on it. It says the elephant in the womb. I'm not sure exactly what these people are protesting for. Like I helped start the 2016 anti-Trump protest, 2016 anti-Trump protest, back when I was a radical feminist, before when I was brainwashed by the MSM. This is how I know about all of their tricks, as I used to be brainwashed by them. And then after that protest, there was like Black Looter Mob took over. They turned it into a race riot with the Antifa Nazis. That's what we called them, BLM Antifa Nazis, or Blammin'. And then they had the Women's March. I remember I had been rioting and protesting so much. I never rioted. I'll take that back. I'm fundamentally morally opposed to it. Always was. I didn't even go to that march. I was like, okay. I was just I was so pooped out from running from cops and getting tear gassed and maced that I was like sleeping, and then I didn't even know what was going on. But now I keep a van full of anti-abortion propaganda pamphlets and burqas. So if you know of any good women's marches, you should DM me on Twitter. I will come with a van full of and hand out anti-abortion pamphlets. They have pictures of dead baby fetuses on them, and it says, "You are a sinner and you're going to hell." And I will sell burqas there. So you should DM me. I also have cameras. So what about these wingnuts? I've been going off on this story for too long. I have a lot of stories. I gotta move on. So that was the censorship. We just got through the censorship
of RSS commentary on Twitter. So I'm going to real quick name the file, because if I don't, it takes a lot of time later. So what do? I put up the I'm sorry, I'm still trying to figure out this part of the show. Comment below what you think. Sweet. Right on. Now I can just upload the videos to YouTube. I am making an app to automate this, but I had to make it closed source. I said I was going to make it open source, but it's a viral video app, and it's worth too much money. What do we got next? Let me do one more thing. Just need to add in a picture, an overlay here. Boom. Oops, sorry. Trying to set up. It's easiest to upload it to YouTube if I make a thumbnail at the beginning like this. So it's complicated. It's a lot of work to run this channel. In this next fake news article from Fake News Forbes, Trump's businesses raked in $1.9 billion in revenue during his first 3 years in office. Donald Trump never really got out of business. So this is a hit piece on Donald Trump. And what they want you to think is that Donald Trump is raking in the dough being president, like it's actually financially benefiting him. But it's a little bit infuriating if you don't follow Fake News Forbes, right? So last time I saw fake news, hold on, we had the beginning fake news article about the fake news about the Trump secretly withholding the 9/11 New York Fire Department funds, and that they used the fake news tactic here where they didn't tell you all the information, and then they want you to click, and when you don't tell them all the information, then it leads them to believe something else. Like when I read this, you definitely see this as pure evil. Report on Trump administration draining funds for FDNY's 9/11 responders draws outrage, and they're trying to say Donald Trump is the one who's wrong here. And but before that, Forbes had published this, which obviously contradicts everything that they said. This article from Forbes from September 8th, 2020, which is, a few days ago. It says Trump's net worth drops $600 million in a year to $2.5 billion. Okay, so this is obviously the same source. And it said this made his wealth plummet 20%. It said it's been a tough year for Trump. On top of impeachment and the pandemic, his net worth has dropped an estimated $600 million since last September to $2.5 billion with a B. That puts him at number 339 on Forbes 400, down 64 spots from a year ago. But you go read the other article, and it definitely looks like it. You know, he's like, oh, man, he's raking in the dough, right? He's making money. I mean, all businesses try to run on zero profits. If they could run on zero profits, they would do that because they're able to shift the money into their own pockets when they do that. They have lots of scams where they have zero income and then they're millionaires. Like, okay, that's nice. I don't know exactly what to think about taxing the ultra rich because you got to look at it from the standpoint of the ultra rich in other countries. Do we want the ultra rich from other countries coming and buying up our country because we don't have ultra rich who can compete with them? Or is it a competition between whose ultra rich people can take over each other's country? I think it's the latter. I think that there is the immigrant class of people who are doing so well in America. They're making money hand over fist. This particular group of people definitely is hyper competitive, and they wish to take as much as they can get. They will. You're crazy to think they're not going to continue taking as much as they want. So if we don't put in reasonable restrictions that prevent the outside world from doing the swoop, then our country is going to get bought up. They're trying to prevent us from enforcing our immigration laws so that they can pump up the number of immigrants in the country by 70 million people so that they can flood in their family and their demographics so they can make it so that the white man isn't in control so that they can take over. This is what the Democrats support. That's what they're all about it, man. They know that they can win on that platform because they got enough minorities in the big cities. You remember this from earlier in the show, my Democrat 4-tier racial caste hierarchy exposes how the Democrats work. They're fucked up ivory tower hierarchy that they've come up with. I am a computer scientist, so I noticed the hierarchy because I see these things, and I helped start the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest. I used to be a radical feminist, and I know how these people work. And so I just saw this. I'm like, damn, these people shady as fuck, bro. So what about this? Their whole thing is just to try to enforce this thing so they stay at the top. That's what you have to understand about Democrats. Who's in control of them? These ivory tower liberals. They're not very good people. They'll tell you anything that you... Well, hold on. They are good people. They're nice. They're hella chill. They are definitely hella chill one-on-one. But they're cutthroat. They're hyper-competitive. They're like the company Behringer. They're like a behemoth. They're at the top. They love defending their spot at the top of the ivory tower. They love it because they can whip. They got a whip and they can beat people and they can fire people. They can get away with crimes because they could pay attorneys to get them off, and they can pay prostitutes to get them off. And there is a lot of suspicion that some of them are involved with pedophiles, especially in Hollywood, with that new Netflix movie, Cuties. That's another example of how there's pedophilia in... I mean, that one's straight pedo, bro. That Cuties show that's fucked up. Like, that's whack. But these people, like, that's just okay to them because they live in a culture where they do fucked up shit and they have weird, bizarre sex parties. And some of them do engage in pedophilia. It's true. So up top, day ivory tower, you got all the
insanely corrupt power players. And I just love this image. The poor whites at the bottom. See so it started as a 5-tier racial caste system. And that was back when Democrats were extremely racist. They owned slaves, started the KKK. And it used to be that you got the white man on top, and then you got the white woman below that, and then you got the black man below them, and then the black woman below them, and then everybody else is on the 5th tier in any order that you want to control the 5-tier racial hierarchy. So that's where this comes from, is the 5-tier racial hierarchy, but they're white feminist. So this is the fucked up hierarchy that they have developed over here, is that they've got the poor whites on the bottom, because they're here's the graph from the Pew Research. It says, among validated voters in 2016, wide gap among whites in education. It leaves off Asians. Maybe I should redo it, put the Asians on there. But you can see the Asians, the amount of money they make, they're at the top. So the people up top here, they're white feminist and they're Asians, and then there's hardly any black people. There's a very, very, very small number of black people up there. But then below them, you get the white feminists. These are the people who don't make enough money to be an ivory tower liberal, but they might work in the ivory tower or in another organization that forces you to go around in circles in meetings and say token anti-racist, pro-trans, pro-LGBT, QA, TCB, BB. And if you don't, they'll fire you. They'll berate you. They'll make you feel horrible if you did not use the right gender pronoun. So they all have to go around in the circle and then say, here's my gender pronoun. I am a man. You're like, okay. So let me get this straight. If somebody calls me a ma'am or a miss, am I supposed to be offended? I don't know about you, but any guy that I've ever known, if you call them a woman, you're like, they would laugh. If you ever call a woman a man, some of them might get a little bit, they might be like, oh, feel bad, but they're probably used to it. It's true. If you called a pretty woman who does not look like a man, she would probably laugh at you, and then she'd probably go along with it, act like a tomboy, or they would say you're funny. But you can't disrespect the trans people by using a different pronoun other than the one that they're demanding. And that's because when they engage in this kind of behavior, they are able to control the ivory tower. This is how they control okay, so you have to understand, I'm an engineer, so I work with a lot of ivory tower liberals, or have in the past. I have been canceled. And the way that these people work is a lot of them are not competitive. I personally am a boss when it comes to engineering. And vast majority of people do not have anything to show. I have a lot of stuff. But a lot of these people, they've worked so hard to get their 4.0, and they think in order to do this, you have to do the science this really rigorous way, because that's the way they heard some doctor did it. But in reality, they've never actually done it. But they're the one who has heard the masters spew out all of the rhetoric. So they just go off of this dogma of, I heard somebody else said you have to be humble. So because they said you have to be humble, that means if you're not acting humble, if you talk about your achievements, that means that you're toxic. This is the way that these people think. So they themselves, they have very thin skin. They feel like they work so hard, and that in order to get that hard, you have to be better than them. And there's no way that you could be better than them if you're like a stoner and then you don't have a fancy life and you don't have all these fancy degrees. There's no way that you could be in with the ivory tower liberals. So they get so pissed off. Like when this is how you can tell the really insanely toxic people. All you have to do is show them some achievements and say that like you don't have the ivory tower liberal credentials, and then act like you're not humble by just being proud of your achievements. And it will bring all of the insanely toxic ivory tower liberals will come out and start attacking you. I'm not even kidding. It's a thing. It's like it's an instinct with these people. They have to say, no, there's no way you can do that. You cannot do that unless you go through all of these steps like the other doctors do. Really? So how did the first person do it? Figured it out randomly? Oh, right. You're like, because this is in the AI industry. I work in the AI industry too. The people who can make the most money with AI are totally not the doctors. They're not the people who can do PhD level math. They're the people who didn't do all of that shit, and they just took the research from the doctors and they went and made a product and they filled a market need, and they did not take a PhD's worth of time in order to do that. It's a sad reality. It's like the C students end up being the head of the company, and then the people who work extremely hard, they end up in the ivory tower. And they get really pissed off because they're all stressed out. They're at work all the time. And they stress out on you. They flip out on you. And especially they have this thing where they can't, they're very temperamental when they're crunching. All right. So if they're stressed out and they've been working and then the shit's not working, the schedule is just nuts. There's like working overtime, sleeping at work sometimes. To crunch is what they call it. It's like, honestly, I think that shit should probably be illegal. I think that it violates our rights to be forced to do that. But people like to do that in the tech world. So I don't know what to tell you there. But if they don't like the tone in your voice, they will get rid of you immediately because they are also too stressed out, and everybody will act like a room full of whiny babies if one person starts acting negative. So they got to target the one person. If anybody starts acting negative, they got to target you. Which usually, usually they'll like, my mouth is like, for them, it's like, that's like crazy. They can't deal with that. They can't deal with somebody who actually speaks real talk because they're so in their bubble up top the ivory tower that, and everybody listens to them. They can fire anybody they want. And then, so to them, people don't question what they do. And so from here, what I said, that would be hate speech to them. They would fire me. They would get rid of me. And this is the fundamental problem with these people and why they're so corrupt and rotten and why I speak out against them so much, because you have no idea how fucked up they are. Once you start looking in at exactly how stressed out they are from running these companies, and if they're not stressed out, how twisted they are, then you no longer have any sort of faith in them, and you pretty much just assume that they're going to fuck everything up at that point in time, and you probably should. because they do have a long history of fucking everything up. What is the story that I'm talking about? These corrupt people up top the ivory tower running Forbes. So you think that these journalists running Forbes and all these other corporations where there's rich people, like they're actually not insane. But trust me, a lot of these people who work these jobs full time, they're cuckoo. It's true. It's true. A lot of these people are absolute fucking wingnuts, man. They're fucking wingnuts. They're fruitcakes, dude. They have these bizarre, weird Marxist ideas. There's like this utopian thing. They're sitting up top day ivory tower, and they're like, "Oh, but I'm doing so well in my life. I have all of this money, so we should just make it so everybody has the same thing as me, and then we'll just share equally." And like, this is not going to cause any sort of problems. And like, because in their mind, they think I grew up in a house where we had everything. It was always in abundant. And then I had my one parent to tutor me to help me get through the calculus in high school. So I got the head start, and they think that like everybody in the world just has this, and that like you can snap your fingers with some magical government policy and then shake the magic money tree and all the money comes out, and then like magically all the resources are just there. And like, this is the fundamental problem with these people, is that all of this is fruitcake. None of it actually works in the real world. And they're just sitting up top the ivory tower preaching about policies that they don't have to deal with because they live in gated communities, while they say, no, you cannot enforce your illegal immigration policies because that's racist, because I don't want to offend the Latinos who mow my lawn. This is how fucked up these people are. This is the reality of California, where you have a monoculture, where you have a one-party state, and what you get is you get a corrupt batch of completely batshit crazy, insane people running your state. And this is what we've got going on here with Nancy Pelosi. And they're just getting bigger, man. It's a scam, bro. They got the public sector employee unions basically took over. It's because most people can't afford to live in big cities. So who can afford to live in the big cities? The people who are kind of like, they're already established, right? And so these people, a lot of them tend to work for public for the government, and they are a member of these public employee union sector or public sector employee unions. And so a lot of people just blanket will vote whatever the public sector employee unions say. They don't even look at it. Like, these people, they just go whatever they heard at the PTA meeting, you know? And so the only way that they can stay in power is through the hood Democrats. So this is the fucked up thing about their fear. This is what you got to call out. I even got a show to call it out, right? You just like, look at the map. See, I saw this shit without needing to put it on the graph, but you put it on the graph and it's like, wow, Democrats are fucked up. You know, you're like, where are the people at? They're in these blue bars. Here are the states. It's like, all right, who are they? Here's what they voted in the last election. It doesn't show the Asians. But you could see, in order for them to maintain this hierarchy, right, you have to put the minorities above the poor whites by giving them diversity tickets. and then the white feminists have to be up at the top because you can't get all of these white feminists out protesting at the Democrat race riots unless they're out there protesting for more money for themselves. Because let's face it, none of these white feminists ever have to deal with police brutality. You know, like it just doesn't happen with white feminists, dude. It also doesn't happen with the ivory tower liberals either. But in order to get the black people to vote for you. You need to get the white feminist on Twitter and in Hollywood to put out tweets and to prop up the ivory tower liberals up at the top of the ivory tower. And then you can see that this is a extremely racist 4-tier power structure that the Democrats have nationally assembled. And it's pretty obvious what they've done. Once you see it, you're like, what? Yeah, they give the minorities the diversity tickets, right? So that means that they rise up above the poor whites. And then you just basically cut it off so that the non-college whites are just stuck at hood Democrat level. We call them hood Democrats because the Democrats started the KKK, and the KKK were hoods. And these people are voting for Democrats. So don't ask me. I don't know. You know, there's a solution for it. You can actually walk away from the Democratic Party, and you can go from the side that is getting made fun of over to the side that is not trying to put you in a 4-tier racial caste hierarchy, right? In fact, we're trying to get you out of the 4-tier racial caste hierarchy, but people are attacking us nonstop. You can't talk about it. They say that's far right. I mean, it's like we're in a parallel universe here. Okay, I've gone too long on this story. I think it's kind of funny that people think that I'm racist, but really what I'm doing is I am trying to end this. Like, you know, in all honesty, I think that this is hella fucked up. This is just like, I mean, just talking about it is insulting to Democrats and white feminists. You can't bring this up, dude, because it's so fucked up. They're just like get pissed. This is why they do cancel culture. It's because you can't actually talk about the real reason why they're doing it, because they banned it from the clear web. It's on the dark web, and there's a reason for it, and it's because it's too embarrassing. And it's hella fucked up. What was that one? All right. Go on to the next one. Helps me out a lot to be able to chop up the videos here. In this next article from the New York Post, Trump defends decision to publicly downplay COVID-19 to avoid panic. President Trump on Wednesday defended his decision to downplay the severity of the coronavirus to the American people, saying that the ensuing panic would have only exacerbated the oncoming pandemic. Quote, "I'm a cheerleader for this country," he told reporters during an unrelated White House briefing. "I don't want people to be frightened. I don't want ...
do not want to create panic. Quote, we want to show confidence. We want to show strength. We want to show strength as a nation. And that's what I've done. End quote. Trump acknowledged to the Washington Post editor Bob Woodward in an interview for his upcoming book that he wanted to always play it, the coronavirus down publicly, as he conceded a grave outlook behind the scenes, according to experts released on Wednesday. Quote, we don't want to jump in up and down, start shouting that we have a problem, that this is a tremendous problem, and scare everyone. And Trump said in the briefing. He also presented a public claim as a strategy to prevent price gouging and ensure that America was able to stockpile masks, gowns, and other needed supplies, as if he felt any sense of responsibility for the now nearly 190,000 American deaths attributed to the coronavirus. Let's push back. We got to push back. So these death counts are not, these aren't legit how they're counting these at all. If you've been watching the show, this isn't new. But here's a chart that I made. Here we could see, got some numbers from the CDC. It says the fake news industrial complex wants you to believe that more people have died from COVID. But according to the CDC in 2017, 2,813,503 people died, as opposed to, as of September 2nd of 2020, only 1,841,678 people have died. Within 4 months, with 4 months left of this year, at this rate, 2.575 million people will have died this year. You do the math, that's about 51,000 people less than died in 2017. So let's look that up. What does this mean? Hold on. So we're going to go look up. We're going to double check and verify, because I have had the numbers messed up. So we're going to go over to the CDC on the numbers over here. We're going to plug in the numbers because they update them all the time. So we're going to take the things. So September 11th. $255 in leap years. 254th, 255th. So it's 255. So what we want to do is we want to take this number from the CDC. We want to divide it by 255. And then we multiply it by 355. It is a leap year, but we can't compare it to the leap year. And what we're going to get is, hold on. Oops. Got to redo this. Times 365. Okay, so you can see that'd be 2.74 deaths. So we're going down. Here's the trend. This is why this is the real news, because I am an engineer and I know enough about scientists to know that there's enough of these people are complete kooks that you cannot trust them when they gather in large numbers. They will come up with some bizarre shit, dude. I'm not trying to discount all of science. I'm just saying these people are very anti-Trump. They don't like Donald Trump.
They want to make Trump look bad. They all believe on the fake news. And so you could see, you can redo these calculations, divide. What did I do? I took the number of deaths from this year and I divided it to get a per day death rate. And that per day death rate, so you divide the deaths by the number of days from the start of the year. That's per day death rate. Multiply it by 365 because we can't compare it to a leap year because that wouldn't be fair. And then you'll see that it's 2.74. So I got to update it. You know, even my numbers, you know, I'll even fuck up sometimes. This is why I'm slowing the show down a little bit. So I'm not gonna try to be the first one to come out with facts. I'm just going to be the one who's repeated facts over and over. But this one was, as far as I'm aware, I'm the first person to start talking about this. And I botched up my numbers more than once. And the other people do this too. This is why I don't trust them. Because I put these things together enough to where I know that I can do some bozo shit sometimes. And in groups of people, everybody's just going to assume that I'm the authority. And then I'm going to go off and do some bozo shit. And this is why I'm good, is because I know these things. And I know that this is an element of human nature. And so you have to go through certain processes in order to make sure you're not out in left field or off the deep end. So we could see the deaths here. Let's CDC deaths per year. So this image showed where to go. This image, we also got another. Here's the death rate. So let's do the death rate to calculate to show you why it's bullshit. So we got this number of deaths, and so we're going to divide it by the U.S. population. Going to the census population clock, because you got to keep that ticking. So it says 330,277,657. And then we divide this by that. All right, here's the percentage of Americans who've died. Multiply it by 100,000. And you get 830 people, 30.01 or 0.09. See, this is 863.8. So your risk of dying is actually not substantially. It's significant. It's not insignificant. It is. Okay, so what's the percentage of that deaths? It's the 863.8 minus, what's the delta on it? So 33, and that's 863.8. Oh, hold on. So what this, I mean, it's about 4%, 3.9% lower than it was in 2017. So they're freaking out, and then you go about the pandemic, and then you see, all right, well, obviously my risk of death is lower now, so why are we freaking out about this? So this number that we're seeing, that was 50,000 people fewer died. If we go off a linear count, which understandably that's not, that could change, but there was more people who died from the pandemic earlier this year. So those people, most of them were older. And so let's go to the next debate thing. Bring this up a lot. Most people don't watch the show all the time, but if you do, still like to watch this a lot. So here's these numbers from the CDC. To find it, it was a really good study that this came off of. Just search for U.S. deaths from coronavirus by age, February 1st through June 17th of 2020. And you'll see that about half of the people just a little bit under half of the people, I think it's like 45% of the people were over the average age of death and were in end-of-life care. And so this is half of the deaths. And then you start calculating them up. Like, I'm in this bracket at 30. I'm 38. And so when you add up all these percents over here, what you get is about 2.5% of the people were under the age of 45. And so most of the people also who died over here were obese or had cancer or some other disease. Now, I'm not trying to discount this. I have offended a person who I respect, who helped build one of the first Apple computers, and he knew Steve Jobs, helped work on some very, very impressive technology. He said I was callous about speaking about the risk of these older people. I understand that. I completely see exactly what he's talking about, what they were saying. But I'm not treating these people like their lives don't matter when I'm saying this. What I'm saying is we overreacted, and the vast majority of people are freaking out. They're at various stages of psychosis about the masks and the pandemic, and as it turns out, they're not at risk. And so the people who are at risk are the older people, and they need to reduce. They need to have if they get sick, they need to have a minimized viral load. So they need to wear a mask, and maybe you should wear a mask if you're like on a bus or something. I'm gonna push back on a bar. Like, what's the point of going to a bar if you gotta wear a mask? I mean, that's just insane. That's insane, especially given that most of these people are young. I do understand we don't want to be excluding the older people. That would be poopy. But there was like, of the first 103,339 people, only 26 were under the age of 15. All right. So what are we doing bothering the kids? Like that, there's no reason in the entire world why we would bother the kids, because they're completely innocent. They're not at risk of this. There's about 60 people die from getting struck by lightning. So that puts it into scale. They're at getting struck by lightning level. So they would not, hold on. This is a double get struck by lightning. Okay. So getting struck by lightning is like 60 out of, yeah. Well, that was like halfway through the year. Okay, maybe those will double. No, it's just at struck by lightning levels, because there was 26, and then we would, halfway through the year, let's double it. Let's multiply that by 2, and then we're at struck by lightning levels. So obviously, if we're at struck by lightning levels, we don't worry about this. And then for me, I'm at my age group. We're at 1780 divided by 60. I'm at 30 times struck by lightning levels. So that's the point where maybe you would worry about it. But I work out all the time. I'm in good health. Last time I had pneumonia, and I was a firefighter, and I remember having lots of money that winter, and we just drank like piss. Drank like piss. We got drunk as piss. We got drunk as piss. Like the entire winter, we were doing all kinds of weird drugs, and we had pneumonia, and we didn't give a fuck. All right, that is dangerous as fuck. You might smoke cigarettes. Right? And you're like, okay, well, what's the chance I'm going to die? How many people die from lung cancer each year? This is a crazy number. You're like, wow, they're messing with us. And look at this. Hold on. So according to WebMD, about 600,000 people die from lung cancer each year. Hey. So let me get this straight. I can go buy a pack of cigarettes, and this can kill 600,000 people per year from lung cancer. But I can't go to a bar without a mask on. When my risk of, look at this. This is what you do. This is how you do the statistics. You got to add up the charts. With the calculator. You got to add up the 8 plus 5 plus 13 plus 125 plus 699 plus 1780. That's how many people died. 2,630. Now let's see how many people are under the age of 45. Well, I mean, they are making up a quarter of the hospitalizations, but the other people are in nursing homes, and they died. Most of the people died in nursing homes, so that doesn't really make sense. So people aged 20 to 44 make up a significant portion of the hospitalizations for Chinese coronavirus in the United States, according to data released by the CDC. So among 508 patients who've been hospitalized, 9% were aged 85. And so that means what? So you have to look at this. So it sounds like there's all these people dying. This is the fundamental core problem with why the CDC is wrong, and they've become fake news over this, is that you look at how many people died. Let's go to covid.net. And then you look up, you're like, okay, there's all these people dying. But you failed to take into account the statistics of how large the country was. This is the infuriating thing. So we go here, look in Oregon. Our population is about 4.2 million, and then there's like a very small number of people who's dying per day. That's not zero. We do need to make sure that some of these people are not going to die, but let's look at the demographics. All right. The demographics of the people who died are, again, here. So what do? It sounds like there's a lot of people dying, but there's just a lot of people. It's very, very few people that are actually dying. It's the truth. It's a very, very small portion of the population. But the thing is that you're going to get coronavirus multiple times in your life. It's going to happen. Now is the most deadly that it's going to be, unless it mutates and it becomes a new strand. There's 6 strands of COVID. 5 of them are not that deadly. 1 of them is very deadly. Okay. If you get the 5 strands that aren't very deadly, before you get the deadly strand, your chance of living has been maximized. You may want to reduce your viral load, in which case you may want to wear a mask. Or you may be a Rough Rider and you don't give a fuck. In which case, when in Rome, be a Roman. When you're not in Rome, be respectful. You should always just be respectful. If they want you to wear a mask, you should wear a mask. If they're demanding, you shouldn't just be a vigilante. You should respect private property. I think that the best way to describe it is, if You want me? The only way that I can come on your property is if I wear a funny hat. If I like you and I like your hat, I'm going to go to your house and wear a funny hat. If I don't like your funny hat, I'm not going to go to your house. And that's called freedom. Fuck yeah. But so that's the same thing with the masks. That's just a necessity of freedom, is that we respect the rules of the house. And when you do that, people will respect the rules at your house. And then it will be worth the price of the mask. But there's a cost to the mask. So hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to look at the U.S. population by age, right? We're looking for this. Is this what I'm looking for? We can get a number off of here, but it's not going to be exact. And that's male and female. Look, here we go. All right, so we can see the population distribution. Here we can see the number of people. Here we can see, we want to look for, I want under 45. I'm going to go with 50 million. Anybody has a problem with that? You should comment below what you think. I'm going to go with 50 million. Then we're going to go off our chart. See, we had this many deaths, and so we're going to divide that by 50 million. Right? And then times by 100. So your chance of dying of coronavirus, if you're under the age of 45, is about 0.00526%, which is not zero, but the chance that you're going to die of cancer is quite a bit larger than that. So it's the same risk as smoking, essentially, is what I'm trying to get at, is that they're freaking out, shutting down the economy over something that has a less of a chance of killing you than smoking. Albeit smoking takes your entire life to do. Still, it is still a fair analogy. I don't understand how exactly we could tolerate selling cigarettes if we know that 600,000 people are going to die a painful death each year. That to me doesn't make any sense, because I don't smoke cigarettes. If I smoke cigarettes, you're probably like, well, I just don't care. I think the same logic here applies to COVID. Like, all right, so it's just too small of a number to deal with, because what we're dealing with here are that the young people are going to get it multiple times in their life. Then they're going to become immune to it unless it mutates, and then we have like a Spanish flu H1N1 type thing going on. We don't know. It might fade away and become more like the common cold, or it might mutate to be something worse. But from all the indications, it looks like it's a dud for the pandemic. It looks like, I mean, these number of people dying, of course, that's not good. If you feel like you're in that group of people, you should minimize the viral load by wearing a mask for your own safety. I'm not trying to question the mask. I'm questioning whether or not we want to put ourselves at risk in suicide, because 1 in 10 people, 1 in 10 Americans contemplating suicide. Oh, sorry, 11%, and this is from Insider. I think I don't like this source, but NewsGuard says they're legit. It says 11% of Americans have seriously contemplated suicide in June, doubling the percentage of people who did so last summer. So we've got double the amount of people thinking about committing suicide. And how many people
commit suicide each year in the U.S. In 2018, it was 48,344, and I think the current number is just 50,000 because it's population increase. So about 50,000 people kill themselves each year right now. And so that number could be doubling coming up pretty soon because of all the stuff from the pandemic. And now you got to look at that number, and then you need to compare it to now the number of people who have died from COVID. That's 178,670. You're like, okay, well, that number could go up 50,000, an extra 50,000 on the suicide count. So let's look at the suicide count from, we put doubled it. Now it's at 50,000 because we killed those many people. So now you got to look at the risk of, what is the risk of wearing a mask when it's going to increase my chance of possibly committing suicide. I used to have CPTSD from being dragged, legal abuse syndrome from being dragged through the court system. My child was kidnapped by a radical feminist through when my son was taken after my baby's mom neglected him by the grandmother, who was also a child neglector, by lying and saying that I used a baby monitor. I'm not even fucking making this up. This is why I don't like Democrats, because they do this shit because they want to be fair and they want to like they're like goody goodies. And so I got my kid taken away for using a baby monitor and telling grandma I was going to not talk to her anymore. This is why I don't like Democrats. They do this shit. So hold on. What was I saying? So you have to look at, I used to have CPTSD, and I used to I was always pretty happy. I used to throw raves, and for a long time I was, life was great. And I was going into engineering school, and all this shit happened with the kid, knocked up the wrong chick at a Burning Man party. I ended up with the kid. Grandma was neglecting the kid, so I got full custody of the child, my son. And so my life is happily ever after. And the pictures of her house were disgusting. Looked like a trash can. Like, seriously, it looks like a trash dump. So I personally am very happy right now. I'm not at risk of committing suicide, but I have been to the lowest of the low. I might seem like I have everything going for me, but I am a human, and I'm not rich. I'm definitely poor. But I'm hip to that. I know that people are there. They want to kill themselves right now. All this stress from Black Looter Mob because there's a lot of people coming out against Black Looter Mob for obvious reasons, because they burn, loot, and murder. Riot. So there's a lot, like, African Americans feel like they got to hide now. They're like not going out, and then it's hurting them. And so you start putting on the mask, and then you're African American, and then people are like, oh shit, he's trying to rob me. Right? So you can see there's a lot of problems here with these masks. It's not just like a la-di-da, everything's just going to be happy when we just muzzle people and make them wear masks so that Democrats can get political brownie points by scaring older voters. It causes actual deaths, like real physical deaths, tens of thousands of people killing themselves, right? So you got to look at this shit with a little bit more of a skeptical eye of what is the risk. This is why I see it differently, because I'm a computer engineer and I work with artificial intelligence. I'm not an AI expert, but I know enough about it
to where I know all about the different risk factors in different situations, where you can mitigate one risk factor and then you have another risk factor that you just added onto it. And so this is the situation that I am able to identify that we're in through my training as an engineer in artificial intelligence, is that we're in a situation where there's risk management. We're in one situation, wearing a mask can save your life. But to make everyone do that can cripple our economy and cause lots of people to kill themselves. This is not what we want to do. We want to have the best of both of these worlds. So we don't have a vaccine. Don't know if we're going to get a vaccine. There's word out, but a lot of people won't trust it. So what do? You do nature's vaccine. You do it the way that naturally, by wearing a mask and minimizing your viral load. But you aren't guaranteed, just because you wore a mask out at the store, that you're not going to get a maximized viral load from a family member who is sick and then coughs when you don't have a mask on, and then you inhale, and then you get a high viral load. Like, this can happen. It's a real, very, 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 very real risk. So you have to mitigate, like this. You should be doing this. You and your doctor, you should be going through, like, what is the safest way for you to do it? It shouldn't be a politician that is telling you you have to wear a mask everywhere. It should be, if you are not immune and you want to make sure you have that minimized viral load, I implore you to wear a mask. But you cannot get a minimized viral load by completely eliminating the viral load, right? Right? That doesn't work. Those two things don't work. This is what the CDC missed. They missed this shit. Like, oh, well, it would save my life if I minimize the viral load. Oh, well, what if COVID mutates and then you didn't get the first strands of COVID, so you don't have any resistance to it, and then you get the more deadly one? You're like, Maybe I shouldn't have eliminated the viral load. Maybe I should have minimized the viral load. And maybe I shouldn't have made a whole mob of people want to kill themselves, because then it could turn into mass shootings, and I might be a victim of a mass shooting. These are the things. It's like we live in a real world, and whenever they do these draconian policies, when they're sitting up top day ivory tower, then they make these policies that affect everyone else, and they live in a gated community where they have walls, but they won't let you enforce your immigration laws, because in their workplace, you have to go around in a circle and say token anti-racist and pro-trans and LGBTQI, 2CBI, C plus, beep beep people, and then you got to say your gender pronoun, one of the 50 some odd genders that they came up with. And if you don't, they'll fire you. Like, they would fire me for what I just said, even though I'm just joking. I love trans people and LGBTI, QTI, TCCB. Man, you got some 2CI, CBT plus MAO, 2CI, MAO inhibitors, bro. I'm there, homie. Hit me up, dude. But to them, that's hate speech, because they can't take a joke, right? This is the problem with these people. They're running the ivory tower. The CDC is the top of the ivory tower, where you got the ivory tower liberals sitting up top the ivory tower, preaching nightmarish policies from their gated communities with walls, where they only hire immigrants to mow their lawn. So they don't want to offend them, because they don't want people to think that they're racist. If they did, they'd fire them from their job, right? This is the insanity that is taken over the CDC, because only 6% of scientists are Democrats or are Republicans. The rest, majority of them, it's like a plurality of them are Democrats, and then there's a small amount of independents. And they run the ivory tower, and the CDC is run by scientists, and the statistics are the statistics. They're almost all Democrats. And so they're all freaking out because many of them are older and they're scared, and so they do not act like a good commander. They do not do what Donald Trump was doing. Let's go back to the story here about Donald Trump's defending his decision. I'm going to say that with the evidence that has been presented here, it obviously seems like we should not have freaked out. We did not know, but I'm going to throw a conspiracy theory here out at you. I don't know whether or not this is true, but you have to ask yourself the question, when China was doing these fumigation scenes where they had these weird fumigation machines fumigating from this thing that they didn't know, it's like a new thing. Like, if this stuff worked, why aren't they telling us? Why aren't they giving it to us, dude? Like, what is this stuff that they're even spraying out here? Right? So you have to ask yourself, did the Chinese government stage these scenes? Did Xi Jinping stage the pandemic? Did he stage locking people into their apartment complexes by welding the front of the things down? Let's see if we can find a video of, I want to go on Twitter, but I can't because I was suspended for defending Kyle Rittenhouse and the Second Amendment. I don't know. You almost wonder whether or not I've got some inside people over there at Twitter and they just suspended me just to give me content for the show, because it's like they suspended the wrong person, right? They're up on YouTube. Got thousands of people watching them. I don't know, not thousands of people watching each of my videos, but I do have thousands of views per week. And they all get to see this antitrust behavior. And it's like, man, you got to wonder, is Kale coordinating this shit behind the scenes with his ivory tower liberal accomplices? Go ahead and comment below. Tell me what you think. The YouTube, gotta use YouTube because Twitter is preventing me from being a part of the community square. So I have to, even though their thing is like preventing me from tweeting until I deleted it, I appealed it, and so I can't view anything on Twitter now because I'm appealing the thing. Looking for the videos of they sealed off the city. Probably not going to be able to find it in a reasonable amount of time. Here it is. Yes. Yeah, Faith. Here's a video of them welding the apartment complex doors shut to keep the people inside.
这7号楼的门都焊死了，你想出来，就留一个小窗户送菜，还要付钱呢，还卖烟呢，你看玉溪。
They also sorry, still watching that, huh?
这门已经封好了，我日你妈就能开这么大。
So you have to ask yourself, did the Chinese government know that COVID was not that deadly, and they staged those scenes? Comment below. Tell me what you think. What's the other thing that they did that could have been staged? the apartments, the trying to think. Welding the apartments shut. Oh, building the hospitals. Yeah. So that was the other thing that they did that could have been staged. So you could see here's the time lapse showing the construction. See, because this is how you have to what you have to understand about doing cyber warfare campaigns. I do the wiki spy thing. So, I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm just building a tool to track the Chinese government because I have another startup company that I can use the technology for. So it's not a rabbit trail. So you have to understand that they have a limited amount of ways that they can control your mind. They can do things. They can build things. In this example, the Chinese government is building a pandemic hospital. And then so in the other example was the fumigation scenes. They can.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube.
They can put people up in costumes and then stage events like this. They have state-controlled media, so they can put out propaganda articles. And so my AI tool is going to be analyzing these sources of propaganda to compare them to see how similar they are. Give you a rating of how much like the Chinese Nazi People Party this certain wiki articles are like. Sorry, that wasn't the best description. But they can weld apartment buildings shut, so they can make these stages that make you put you in fear, because they can show you we did all of this stuff to build this pandemic hospital, this huge massive thing, and then at the whole time they know that the death numbers are like this because they saw the numbers, because they have a way bigger population, so they were able to look at the death numbers. They kept it. See, because the reason why this theory holds water is that the Chinese government didn't tell the world about COVID. They kept it under wraps for like some number of months. I think in like September or October or something was when they first started internally discussing
Hey,
it.
NBC
And
News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by.
So during this period of time, they were able to gather enough data about the disease that they would have known that it would be just like America, that we wouldn't need a pandemic hospital. They wouldn't, especially one anywhere near that big, because they built a massive, huge one. And this caused us to freak out. Like, we need to build these. And the reason why I'm hip to this is because I built an open source ventilator for the pandemic. I learned all about COVID and building ventilators to save patients' lives. And that's to the point where I realized that the news was fake and that these people are bozos and they're hooking people up to these ventilators to kill them. After I spent some number of months working on the ventilator, I realized how deadly they were and how little of a chance I had of dying. And that I would never, ever want to be hooked up to a ventilator, ever. I would rather die slowly. I would rather die a natural death. Just take the risk, because the 25% chance of me living on the ventilator, I'm gonna go with the chance that I might live without the ventilator. To me, that's the risk that I would rather take. I would rather not have to live with the collapsed lungs, with all the other problems. But I remember being fearful, thinking I'm going to have to hook myself up to this ventilator. And then I think I had gotten COVID. I was sick for like maybe a month. And So after that, I just assumed I had COVID, and then I'm just not afraid of it anymore because it's like you're running away from this boogeyman, and you keep running and running and running, and then the boogeyman gets you, and it tickles you, and then it runs off, and you're like, wow, I was really afraid of that. Okay. So I'm not trying to be callous when I say maybe we should back up off the masks, because there is some good evidence that the Chinese Nazi Party might have been behind making us scared about the pandemic. It might have. There's a very good look at this. These scenes look straight up staged. They do. This looks like some Chinese Nazi Party propaganda. This looks like they're so the other thing is the Chinese Nazi Party is the second largest donor to the World Health Organization. And so they have a lot of control at the World Health Organization because they do a lot. They're very brilliant people. I definitely will give it to them. They're geniuses over there in China. The USSR also was very, very innovative. I'm not communism isn't bad because it's not they can't innovate and create stuff. It's bad because the economies just don't work right, and it makes a group of people take control. It becomes far right. Whenever you have a government class that's permanent and they can live the high life, and then they keep the order, that's not communism. That's far right. It's not far left, it's far right. You've created a steep social hierarchy that is no longer far left, is far right. The far left can easily go to the far right. This is a misconception with Antifa Nazis. They don't understand that 50% of Nazis in World War II were about 50 were communists. They took marching orders from Stalin. They worked together. The far left and the far right worked together to overthrow the conservative power structure. So this is what the Chinese are trying to do. They're trying to topple our government and remove the white people from North America in a cyber warfare operation. They're doing it through putting out anti-racist and pro-illegal immigration propaganda, preventing us from enforcing our immigration laws, and then hitting us with fentanyl. They're smuggling in through the cartels. So they need a human trafficking network. They need a drug trafficking network in order to deliver the chemical weapons to kill people in America. And so there, you can any group of people who's engaging in cyber warfare operations like that, you really should not be trusting them. That's a bad group of people. They're trying to kill your people with fentanyl and remove you from North America by replacing your population with immigrants. That's exactly what they're doing. And they're like, no, that's far right. You can't say anything about that. It's like, wait a minute. We're talking about Chinese Nazi Party doing a cyber warfare operation to try to overthrow our government, to put communism in here and kill our culture with cultural Marxism. How is it far right to oppose these people? Oh, it's a China psyop. Because that's exactly what they do. When you've been hit with a psyop, they brainwash you to fight the people who are fighting the people who did the psyop. That's how it works. They can't just like prop up this cyber warfare psyop without having people to defend the psyop. It is like this is like the ABCs of overthrowing governments. Is you have to prop up a movement of people who support you, right? So how do you do that with companies? You get them jobs, you give them preferential treatment. In the workplace, you get them used to your authoritarian line of thinking, and then you can slowly move them from the position of freedom and the Constitution into a position of authoritarianism. And then you are able to do all kinds of nasty, nasty things like cultural Marxism, which has killed over 100 million people in the past 100 years in China and the USSR simultaneously, where the socialists from the cities went through the capitalist rural areas and they mass slaughtered people in order to, because they thought that Marxism wasn't the thing that failed, it was the culture that failed, so they had to get rid of the culture. This is what they're trying to do in America. They're trying to get rid of the racist white man, replace his culture with Spanish-speaking people, because somehow Spanish people are less racist than Americans. I mean, this is crazy. Anybody who's known the history of Spain is like, you're fucking crazy, dude. You're like, no, the white people are too racist, so we got to replace them with Spanish-speaking people. That makes a lot of sense, right? Obviously, these people have never taken a history class. They have hate speech laws over there. You're not allowed to be racist anymore. I've been on this one for way too long, but that's cool because on the coffee show, going to have people come on the show here in the future, so you'll have multiple people hearing you speak on this beautiful table. Got a room. Got put another person over here. Because I like it when it's pimp nanny. Pimp nanny. Pimp nanny. Pimp nanny. This next article from Newsweek, Republican Mike Pence, Kim Guilfoyle, and Ronna McDaniel to attend QAnon-affiliated fundraiser. Vice President Mike Pence has dismissed the QAnon movement, but President Donald Trump has voiced appreciation for QAnon support for his administration. Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel, Republican Committee Finance Chairman Todd Ricketts, and Kimberly Guilfoyle, an advisor to President Donald Trump, the king of memes, have also been invited, according to an invitation obtained by the Associated Press. Michael and Karen Borland are expected to host the event, but Borland has allegedly posted positively about the QAnon conspiracy theory movement, which claims President Trump is waging a secret battle against groups of individuals who want to see his administration destroyed. Man, see, this is like telephone. This is the thing. This is how it started. It started saying there's a group of pedophiles who really don't like Donald Trump, and they're trying to take Donald Trump out, and they're high up positions in the government, right? And then so this morphed then into it's a cult of Satan worshipers who are waging a war against Donald Trump